it started to be a struggle to like not go on TikTok. And then when that happened, I was like, no, 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 something is right.
There is power in the name of Jesus. Power in the name. There is power in the name of Jesus. Power in the name. There is power in the name of Jesus. Power in the name. There is power in the name. Moving in our midst, I worship you. I worship you. You are here, working in this place. I worship you. I worship you.
Good night. So hi guys. So I was trying to do a video, and not trying, I did a video and I kind of lost the whole beginning of the video. So I just wanted to make a quick introduction, I guess. So I came on to talk about this TikTok issue, this social media issue. Well, on Facebook this morning, I saw a story of a little boy that was found with a belt around his neck, and they said that he was trying a TikTok challenge, right? And he died. Somewhere else where they made mention of a young girl in Italy, I believe it is, that died from the same TikTok challenge. They're calling it blackout, right? And so a whole lot of people blaming the internet, and who want to blame the parents, and who want to blame, right? Now this was a very, very unfortunate incident. Very, very sad. It always takes you back when an innocent child loses their life, right? It's never easy for a parent. We're quick to pass blame, but we never really would know. Unless you've been there, you wouldn't know what these people what they're going through, right? So what we as believers should be doing is praying. Even though you don't know the people, you don't know their story or whatever, we should be praying. Prayers are powerful. Praying for peace, for God's grace upon their life, for strength for them to carry on, right? We don't know. I'm not sure if they have other kids or whatever, so this is something that could really affect a family, right? Say that we believe in the word of God, we believe the Bible, right? All through the Bible, it tells us, it warns us about this enemy that we face. It warns us about entities, about demonic spirits. It warns us about these things. It's either you believe the Bible or you don't. And in the Bible, it tells us and explains that we have an adversary, we have an enemy, all right? The prince of the power of the air. Social media, all these things, the radio airwaves, all these things are in the air, in the atmosphere. Satan uses these things to attack us. We have to start being each other's keepers, being our brothers' keepers, raising the future, instead of dressing back and back talking people children and back talking this one and back talking that one and saying that's not my business, not keeping out of that. We need to stop that as believers. You're going down the street, you see a child in a compromising position or doing something that you know is wrong, pull them up, talk to them. And as an adult, that is the future, right? We need to start to make that effort. Everybody needs to start to do their part, and right, most times it's the same things repeating itself. Social media, I wouldn't say that social media has been exposing the generation to to different things or new things, or I would say that social media exposing this generation to things before time, right? Faster than it would have done to the other generations before. But it's the same stuff, they just exposed it sooner, right? Since this internet and access to this internet under the guise of, education and evolving, the world is evolving and we have to keep up, and all these issues repeating itself. It's just this generation is exposed to it way sooner, right? Not sure where it was cut off or what I said before or what, but the whole point of the video, what sparked it, was that news that I got today. So yeah, I'm going to try to merge the two videos because, as I said, I'm not sure where it got deleted, and so I don't even remember what I started off talking about. So yeah, all these avenues, all these stuff, the enemy uses these things not just to get at our children, but also parents, adults. Everyone can fall victim to these things. All right. If you use, we as believers can use these things, because at the end of the day, right, the internet isn't bad if you're using it for the right thing. Because it provides education. It opens up a whole range of information throughout the whole world, a lot of information. It allows believers to connect from all around the world, right? There's a lot of positive things to be said about the internet as well, right? The thing is that we as believers need to use these things to glorify God. We need to use social media, use these gadgets to glorify God, right? I fell victim to TikTok some months back, right? Nobody is, like I always say, I'm not better than anybody. I struggle with things just the same as the next person, all right? Everybody have their individual struggles. Everybody have stuff that they're dealing with. We are to help each other, to love each other, to offer grace to each other, just as the Lord has given us grace, right? And so I would have fallen victim to this TikTok a couple months back, right? I started quite innocently seeing one of those Christian TikTokers, right? And it was nice. And then I always kind of like stuff like that. Like I used to be doing things like that, like voiceovers and stuff, even before TikTok. Like even before Instagram, I used to be doing videos and like recording myself doing the voiceover to other voices, characters, actors, actresses, I like things like that, or singing or whatever, right? And then I can't remember who told me about TikTok, because I'm not really a social media fan anymore. Like I deleted my Facebook page, like my personal Facebook page and all of that, a long time ago. And so I just created social media platforms just to, I guess, help promote, whatever I want to share, and the word of God, and, to look at news. I go on Facebook and look at news and link with other, like, believers and churches and stuff like that, right? And so I don't remember, I think it was, I can't remember how I got onto TikTok, but wandered upon a TikTok video from a believer, and it was really nice. It was the guy that actually
just be running. The video would start with him running and he'd be like, hello, hold on, don't scroll, let me pray for you. And he'd come up and he'd start to pray. I think that was what initially got me onto TikTok, and then I fell in love with it. But I was doing it from like a believer standpoint. Like I thought I would follow only believers, and I would make, I had fun creating this stuff. Like the account was private and I was only I was at least trying to follow only Christian content, but that didn't last, because on your home screen you're still there sending stuff. As much as you would follow only Christian content, you would still be exposed to other things. And eventually I started to do other little skits, and then I realized, like, into the day it's taking a while and you're doing more and more and more of these videos, and then I wouldn't get into the word, I wouldn't spend time in prayer, and then I was like, this ain't good, and it started to be a struggle to like not go on TikTok. And then when that happened, I was like, no, something ain't right here. But yet I was still struggling. And well, long story short, eventually I just decided, hey, this is not worth my relationship with the Lord, and I deleted it. And after I deleted it, well, that was it. I think I actually, through maybe once in a little break, some months after, I reinstalled it, and I probably stayed on for like maybe 2 days, and then I deleted it again, and that was it. Never installed it again. That was it. So it is very addictive, and I kind of have an addictive personality, and so yeah, people need to be careful, right? So what I want to say is, I always point out, right, you need to find balance, right? If you believe in the Bible tells us certain things. The Bible tells us about demons, it tells us about demonic possessions, it tells us about our adversary, it tells us about these things. It tells us to be discerning. Discernment is not just in your day-to-day natural life. Discernment is learning to recognize spiritual activity, right? To recognize spiritual things happening around you. That is a part of exercising discernment, right? Sometimes people at your throat, you have to learn to recognize that it's actually not this person that is fighting you. You have to learn to recognize the spirit behind the person. You understand? And deal with that spirit in prayer, in warfare, right? So I just always say that you can't be radical, like all the way to the right, thinking everything is just it's demons and spirits and da. Although I always say things manifest in the spiritual before it manifests in the natural. That's just the way it is. We're spiritual beings having natural experiences. That's what I believe, right? And so a lot of life is really spiritual, and some of us just choose to not see it. We choose to turn a blind eye, and that is not right. It's not healthy, right? And so you can't be all the way to the right, being obsessed and, going crazy. You can't be all the way to the left, not believing in these things. You have to find balance, right? You have to find balance, not to allow that to consume you, and yet to deal with it when it comes up, when it arises. All right. Like certain, they tend to get I think, overly carried away with like gifts and prophesying and speaking in tongues, and they tend to be overly absorbed in stuff like that, and they pay more attention to things like that than to the actual gospel itself, the actual gospel message itself, and that is not good either, right? Some denominations, they tend to be just so legalistic, it's crazy, right? And so there is always a fine line that you have to be careful, right? So with that being said, I tend to always say, right, that demons don't die, right? People die, their hosts die, right? Our bodies, we natural beings, we die, but same demonic forces that were responsible for the wars, for the for racialism, for slavery, for all those things way back when, before our time, are the same forces that are working today, right? Why I say this, why this came up to me, why it jumped out at me, is that I didn't really go in depth about the death of this child, right? I did see that another little girl died in Italy, I think it was, right? Over, I believe they're calling it the blackout challenge, right? She got brain dead initially, and then she passed away. And so this little boy, I believe they found him with a belt tied around his neck, and it's just so sad and so unfortunate. And now is not the time to be really blaming parents, and you know, this in itself is torment, is torture, and it's hard to deal with losing your child, right? And so what we need to do, especially as believers, is to prevent, to try at least to prevent stuff like this, to educate each other, to educate ourselves, right? To be our brother's keeper. If you know, pay attention, open your eyes. Don't just stop and say, you know, sit down and bad talk your neighbor child, or bad talk whoever else child, and you know, and say that's not my business. And no, we need to be each other's keeper. You look out for your friends' children, or your neighbor's children, or whoever, or children in general. As an adult, as a person who was once a child, we should be looking out for the youth. That is the future, right? You go down the street and you see a child doing some kind of nonsense or whatever, you talk to them, pull them up. You understand? If people start practicing things like this, then it will be better. Let me tell you, the further away we go from the word and from God, is the more chaotic and upsetting things would get. When I was younger, in my teens, we had a very similar game. A very similar, I wouldn't say a game, but it was a thing that we would do where you'd kind of put each other in a headlock, and you know, like how those wrestlers used to put people to sleep with they call it the sleeper hold or whatever. We had something like that doing, that we would headlock each other until, you know, the person went unconscious. And I remember I used to be a kind of real free-spirited, kind of crazy teenager. I used to want to just try everything. I say, you know, everything is at least there to be tried at least once. How you'll know you like it, how you'll know you don't like it if you didn't try it. That's the kind of crazy head I had, right? And I remember doing it, and I got so obsessed with this thing. I remember I had this friend by the name of Quincy, and I think Quincy used to be practicing like martial arts and stuff like that, so he kind of learned how to do this thing really well. And I used to be actually bugging this guy to put me to sleep. And what you think happened? He put me to sleep one time, and I saw my dad. Well, every time that happened, like he'd put me to sleep, I would see things. It's like if you're dreaming or you're traveling or, you know, weird stuff like that. And that used to fascinate me. And I saw my dad. My dad died when I was probably like 16. Put me to sleep, and I saw my dad. And I remember I was like right in front of our home, and he came walking. He didn't come right up to me. He was a little ways away, and he kept calling me and telling me, come. And I stood up and I was looking at him, and I was saying, I was saying, but Dad, you died, you know? And he was like, no, baby, come, you know? And I didn't go, but I think they woke me up, because they didn't used to just leave you to wake up on your own. They used to, like, after a little while passed, they would, I think it wasn't even long, like as you go out, they would wake you up, right? But it used to feel like it's a long time, real weird. And so that made me get really obsessed with that. And I used to be begging him to put me to sleep. And I remember another time he did it, and I saw my dad again. And he came and he was asking me for the keys, where we put the keys to the house. He kept asking for the house keys. And so today, when I read this thing about this child, and, you know, and this challenge and whatnot, it got me thinking that even then, it was demonic. That whole setup, that whole thing that we were doing, it was demonic. And these are familiar spirits. When you dream dead relatives, or you dream people who passed on already, or, you know, people who you know, whatever, most times it's spirits. They take on that look of people that you know, so that you would stand in agreement with them, so that you would all my pause raising, so that you would so I kind of under the house when you see it's like nighttime and all this light and setup, is because I'm in the wash house downstairs. And so Kelly was just quarreling and saying that I shouldn't, but we just came back, and I really wanted to do this. So, you know, like when you see me looking, it's because I actually seen outside in the yard, because the door open. I closed that door on that side, but that door open. So yeah, these things take on familiar faces and come in your dreams, so that you would accept whatever it is they offering. And by doing that, you're standing. I start to feel real weird. Sorry guys, sorry. I'm freaking myself out all of a sudden, because I just getting real goosebumps. Right? They take on these familiar faces. It's like they would come in your dream and maybe offer you food, or ask you to come go somewhere with them. They would take you to some place or whatever. You must try. Not all dreams you could control. I've had dreams where I could actually control what I'm doing in the dream, and then sometimes I've had dreams where I have no control at all, and I'm just seeing myself doing stuff, and I can't stop it. I can't control it. But excuse me, this is something that you need to pray about, and to really ask God to cover you while you sleep, to cover your dreams, to only allow things that are from Him, or things that He needs. Because not sometimes, God allows certain dreams just so that we could go into warfare, so that we could pray about it. You understand? He would allow us to have a certain dream, so that we would, if it's bad, we would rise the next day or whenever and immediately start to pray against whatever we saw. And by doing that, you're canceling stuff in the spiritual. I hope I'm not weirding out anybody with these things, but these are things you really have to seek knowledge about. You really have to pray to the Lord to give you guidance, and to open your eyes that you could see, and open your understanding that you could really grasp these things, because it's real, right? It is real. And all these things, nobody never sit down and taught me these things. It's through past experiences, through, you know, even recent experiences that God uses to bring knowledge to me. Is through, believe it or not, dreams. Is through the Holy Spirit. It's the Holy Spirit that taught me all these things. And a lot of times as well, He would lead me to people who have this knowledge as well, and I would learn more, you know. But you always need to pray about things and allow God to tell you what is right and what is wrong, and, what is false. You understand? But I'm telling you, these things are real. So yeah, the unfortunate incident, I believe, is just demonic forces at work. Same demonic forces way back when, even in my time, that may have been, having all that putting people to sleep thing, and the same forces behind that, maybe the same forces behind these challenges, is evil demonic people, right? You ever look at some movies and stuff and be like, how this person even come up with this? How this person even, like, I used to love horror movies. Like, I don't look at horror again because, well, there's a whole thing behind why I don't look at horrors anymore. But I don't look at horrors again, but I used to really love a good horror movies. Yeah, you would stop sometimes and be like, how does this person even come up with this? And it's demons. It's demonic. Just as how God gives dreams, the devil does. He does too. That's why discernment and a strong relationship with the Lord is important. Right? I don't know if maybe some people doesn't even know that they have demonic influence in their life. Maybe they honestly think the thoughts just come from them. But they practically working for the evil forces and coming up with these things, with these horrible ideas, right? So I just want to say that people need to start, especially believers, you all need to start to understand that this life we are living in now is more to it than meets the eye. It's greatly spiritual, all right? And the Bible tells us that this enemy seeks to steal, to kill, and destroy. And that is no joke. That is not a joke. That is really his agenda. He goes to and fro on the earth, seeking whom he can destroy. And there are innocent babies falling by the wayside because parents, they're falling short. You all need to educate yourselves. You need to seek truth. You need to read your word, spend time in the word, and allow the Spirit of the Most High God to lead you into all truth. You need to teach the young ones. You don't want to lie to them. You don't have to give them everything raw at first if they're too young to handle it. But start slow, start small. Don't wait for them to have questions and to go and get it answered by the wrong source, right? Answer their questions. Provide knowledge for them. Teach them to have a relationship with the Lord. It's important. Start them from young. You train a child up in the way that he shall go, and he will not depart from it. Regardless to what. When I was younger, yeah, I wanted my own way. After a while, yeah, there was a time I was rebellious, but still there were values instilled in me by my parents that never left. And it's a big part of the reason why I wasn't worse off. It's because of those morals, those values that was instilled in me from young, right? Our nature by default is rebellious and is against God. We are born with that against him, right? And a lot of us get that call. He calls us and we ignore it because we feel what? We're missing out, or we feel living that Christian life is boring, is dull. You know, you're missing out on something. It's not. It is so fulfilling, more fulfilling than you have ever been in your entire life. That peace and that joy that can only come from the Lord is incredible. You're not missing out on anything, right? So yeah, as I said, I don't want to practice making like I want to keep stuff short and as much to the point as possible, right? So it's just a reminder to you guys to just, you know, if you say that you believe in the word of the Lord, there is everything in that book that tells us about things that we face in our day-to-day, that we don't understand what is happening, what is going on, you know, why this is happening, why that is happening. The Bible tells us, it shows us. Seek in that book. Seek in the word of the Lord, and you will find knowledge and understanding. All right? So, you know, pray. Even though you don't know the parents, you don't know the people behind that story of that child, still pray for them. Pray for them. Prayer is a powerful, powerful thing. Pray for them that God gives them strength to endure through this, that he gives them peace, that he gives them his grace, that he gives them, you know, forgiveness and the ability for them to forgive themselves. Because you can imagine how they could be blaming themselves too, that they fell short. And you know, if that is just a horrible, horrible, horrible situation to be in. So sad. All right. So at the end of the day, God is always in control. He is always at the wheel. He knows best. All right. So that's it for me and for this discussion. Well, it's not really a discussion because it's I alone talking. But yeah, you all have a blessed and wonderful night. See you in the next video. Shalom.